Hi everyone. Today we will be beginning with another chapter, that is biological activities. So in biological activities we will be studying how the living organisms perform certain activities that support their lifestyle, that supports how they live, how they reproduce, how they function. All right, so these are all biological activities of all the living organisms, for example us humans, for the animals, for the plants. How are they functioning, how are they reproducing, how are they eating, how are they getting food, all those things, right? So let's start. The first thing we come to is nutrition. All right, so what is nutrition? Nutrition is a process by which organisms obtain and utilize food for growth, development, and energy production. Okay, we eat food, we grow, we use that food for energy, for growth, for development. Imagine how much food you have consumed since your childhood. All right, imagine what all has it been used for. It is used for your height, it is used for growth, it is used for development, how your arms and legs look, all development of your body, energy. If you play a sport, if you do anything, any task the body does, it needs energy and it gets from nutrition. All right, it gets from food. It can be categorized into autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition. So, what is the difference between autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition? Autotrophic nutrition, okay, refers to the ability of an organism to synthesize its own food using inorganic substances. Auto means by itself. All right, we do not produce our own food, like not growing crops and all. Our body does not produce its own food, we take food from outside, so we are not autotrophs. Autotrophs are plants, algae, that contain chlorophyll. They synthesize their own food through the sun, the carbon dioxide present in the air. So autotrophic nutrition is the ability is an important word over here, of an organism to synthesize its own food using inorganic substances. Inorganic substances, all right, things that are not organic. Okay, these are not grown, these are just raw materials that are present in the environment, like the sun, like carbon dioxide. Okay, so these organisms, they use this inorganic substances to make their own food. For example, if you see over here, this plant is making food for itself. What all is it taking? It is taking sunlight, okay, energy in the form of the radiation received from the sun. It is taking in carbon dioxide, it is giving out oxygen, it is released, it is also taking water from the soil, right? So it is taking all these things and it's making its own food, right? In the leaves, it is making its own food. Plants and some bacteria are good examples of autotrophs. So plants, algae, all right, that green fungus like structure that we see near rocks, all right, in hilly areas, near water bodies, that is algae. Okay, that also contains chlorophyll, it makes its own food. So things that make their own food are autotrophs, right? Plants is a good example, some bacteria, algae and all that. They carry out photosynthesis to produce glucose. So photosynthesis, we all know, they take in carbon dioxide in the presence of, okay, so let me tell you, they take in carbon dioxide, they take in heat, right, in the presence of chlorophyll, they release oxygen, right? And glucose. Now what is glucose? Glucose is food. Glucose is what we call food in human terms, but in glucose lies all the nutrition that the plant makes. Alright, so the fruit is glucose. It's actually fructose, but we call it glucose. Why? Because it is sugar, right? So glucose is made in photosynthesis. Now this glucose serves as the primary source of energy. So for example, supposedly there is a fruit grown on a tree. Alright, that is a good example of how photosynthesis leads to the formation of food, right? That is excess food that it stores in the form of fruit, right? So that is a primary source of energy for most of the living organisms. So if there is an autotroph, right, it will make food for itself, and nature is designed in such a way that it is also making food for other organisms, so that fruit will be eaten by us, will be eaten by animals, right? Humans also eat animals, so in that way. So all the primary food, primary means first, right? So all the primary food comes from autotrophs. Okay, so for example, algae. Okay, algae makes its own food. This is eaten by small fish and small aquatic organisms like tadpoles, frogs, and all those. Okay, and those are eaten by bigger organisms. So it is like a food chain. During photosynthesis, plants use sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water to produce glucose and release oxygen. Like I showed you in this equation, they used carbon dioxide that is released in the atmosphere by us, by other organisms. They use heat, okay, in the form of sun. In the presence of chlorophyll, chlorophyll is the green pigmentation in these leaves. This is what helps them make oxygen that is released and glucose, that is this food. Okay, now we come to another important source of nutrition, that is heterotrophic nutrition. Heterotrophic nutrition is the process of obtaining food by consuming organic substances produced by other organisms. So what happens is, we take in food made by other organisms. So heterotrophic nutrition is the process of obtaining food by consuming organic substances produced by other organisms. So what would be a good example for a fruit, right? Fruit grown on trees, that is food made by the tree, but we are consuming it, right? Another example for us would be milk. Milk is produced by the cow, but we are drinking it, right? Animals, fungus, and most bacteria are heterotrophs. Heterotrophs rely on other organisms for their food, right? They cannot make their own food. Thus, they rely on other organisms, basically autotrophs. Heterotrophs rely on autotrophs for food. So, like us humans, we do not have chlorophyll, we cannot make our own food. So, what do? We eat food that is made by plants, that is eaten by animals, and all that. So, heterotrophic. These are different types of heterotrophic nutrition, including saprophytic nutrition and symbiotic relationships. So heterotrophic, all right, this is divided into another two, all right, saprophytic, symbiotic. So the broad category is that heterotrophic nutrition is nutrition that is derived from autotrophs, from other organisms that make their own food. In this category also there are two subparts, that is saprophytic nutrition and symbiotic. Now what are those? We will study that in detail. Saprophytic nutrition. So in saprophytic nutrition, it involves obtaining nutrients by decomposing dead and decaying organic matter. Alright, so for example, a good one would be ants or mushrooms. Okay, these are saprophytic nutrition. They get their nutrition, they get their food by a dying organism, all right, a decaying substance. So for example, you have eaten half of a banana and you have thrown it in the ground. You will see in a few minutes that a lot of ants have come over it, right, on leftover food, because that food is decaying. All right, it is decaying means it is getting oxidized, it is getting spoiled and decaying to simpler particles. Okay, now what do the ants do? Ants will break that banana into very tiny little pieces and it will feed themselves. All right, that is saprophytic. Another example would be funguses, right? Funguses and mushrooms. Okay, we get mushrooms on dead and decaying wood, on dead and decaying organisms. For example, if there is a rat that has died in the jungle, on its body there will be ants, there will be a lot of worms and other things that will take nutrition from it. But after a while we will also see there is mushrooms, there is fungi over there. Why? Because they are using that organic matter, its body, as a source of nutrition. They decompose that dead and decaying organic matter. Fungus and certain bacteria exhibit saprophytic nutrition. Okay, they exhibit saprophytic nutrition. They release digestive enzymes onto the dead matter, break it down and absorb the resulting nutrients. What happens is it will release a few digestive enzymes. What are digestive enzymes? Enzymes, you understand that these are chemicals that help a process. Okay, digestive enzymes are chemicals that are biologically released to help a certain process. Here it is digestion. What these saprophytic nutrition fungi and bacteria will do, that is, they will release a few enzymes. All right, they will release a few chemicals biologically produced that will break it down. Break down means if the body was this much, it will break it down into a few pieces, right, so that this organism is able to consume it, all right, eat it, take it, right, and absorb the resulting nutrients. So this is kind of a very beautiful thing. What happens is, supposedly an organism has died, all right, supposedly some organism has died. What would happen is you will see a mushroom after a few days. How did this happen? How did this fungus come? Okay, it will release a few, the fungus will release a few digestive enzymes onto that dead and decaying matter, which will break it down and it will help this grow. All right, we eat mushrooms, right? It has some nutrition for us. How did it get it? It absorbed from dead and decaying matter. It broke it down. It absorbed the nutrients. All right. Now we come to symbiotic relationships. What are symbiotic relationships? So symbiotic relationships are interactions between different species where both benefit. All right, these are interactions between species where both benefit. So for example, there are two animals, all right, which benefit from mutualism. So what happens in mutualism is both species involved benefit from each other. An example is lichens, which are formed by mutualistic association between fungi and algae. Okay, in a symbiotic relationship, one organism benefits and the other one also benefits. Maybe one organism is getting food, maybe one organism is getting cleaning, maybe one organism is getting some benefit, the other organism is also getting some benefit. We see partnerships in nature. Alright, there will be a few organisms that benefit from each other. An example is lichens, which are made by the association between fungi and algae. So fungi and algae are two different microorganisms. Alright, lichens are something that are formed by their symbiosis. Alright, like an algae will give it food and fungi will give it protection like this. Okay, algae does photosynthesis, fungi just grows. All right, it has the ability of growing. So the fungi provides a protected environment while the algae produces food through photosynthesis, right? So algae is giving it food and fungus is protecting it. So this is a symbiosis. Alright, we see this between organisms, and these are just microorganisms. We see it on a different level as well. Let's see. Over here we have some pictures of first two. Alright, we take a different pen. The first two are saprophytes. You see these logs, you see this algae, you see these mushrooms growing on this dead and decaying matter. Alright, you see a log over here, a wood over here. Alright, the fungus is growing, the mushroom is growing. How? It is growing on some dead and decaying matter. Alright, maybe the wood is decaying, it is dying, maybe an organism died over here. So this is how it happens. Now we come to symbiosis. Okay, so in symbiosis, see this first picture, see this second picture. Both benefit, right? Both are benefiting from each other. Now if you would have seen that movie Nemo, right? Nemo. This is called a clownfish. That Nemo fish we see in the movie, it is clownfish. Alright. Now, what are these things? These jelly-like, long-like structures. Alright. These are the home of the clownfish. Okay. Now, what happens is, these are like jellyfish tentacles. These will sting any other organism, but not the clownfish. Clownfish lives inside this. How is it? Okay, so this is a symbiosis, right? The clownfish will derive protection inside it. It's called a sea anemone. Okay, sea anemone. Alright, these green thread like structures. Alright, so what happens is, these serve as a source of cleaning. The clownfish, the Nemo fish, serves as a source of cleaning for a sea anemone. Alright, and in turn a sea anemone gives it home. Alright, see over here, it is living inside it, right? It is living inside. This is a symbiosis. They have a partnership together. Over here you see an alligator, right, and a bird. Why is this alligator not eating the bird? This bird, he opens his mouth, this bird will come and it will eat all the tiny little particles that are stuck in its teeth. Alright, all the food that is stuck in its teeth, right? So for example, the alligator had some food and there is something stuck over in his mouth. Alright, now an alligator does not have a toothpick. Alright, it cannot remove it by himself, right? So it opens its mouth, birds come, they eat it, all the leftover particles, all that is stuck in its teeth. This serves as a cleaning for the alligator and food for the bird. So this is a symbiosis, right? Symbiosis means mutualism. They are living mutually, right? Mutually. Mutually. Okay. Now, nutrition in plants. Now, what is nutrition in plants? Till now, we saw some sort of nutrition at a very micro level, animal level. All right, what happens between humans, animals, how we get food. How do plants make food? Just through photosynthesis? All right. We know that in photosynthesis they have glucose. Okay, what is the formula of glucose? C6H12O6. Like for carbon dioxide, it is CO2, right? And oxygen is O2. Glucose has this formula C6H12O6. We all know how it is formed: carbon dioxide plus uh, heat plus water as well, H2O, in the presence of chlorophyll gives us C6H12O6, that is glucose plus oxygen. This is an equation that I am telling you. Plants have unique adaptations for acquiring nutrients. So in nature there are adaptations, right? So if there is a problem, an organism will adapt to it, overcome it. How? So some plants have chlorophyll, they make food. Now for example, if in some places there is no chlorophyll in plants, how will they get it? Alright, how will they get food? Now we will study about that. Apart from photosynthesis, some plants have developed specialized mechanisms to obtain nutrients, right? They have special mechanisms. Okay, they are making use of mechanisms to obtain nutrients. Now they don't have chlorophyll, no photosynthesis. Okay, so the first one is insectivorous plants. Some plants eat insects. How do they eat insects? Insectivorous plants are those that capture and digest insects to fulfill their nutritional requirements. So they will capture the insect and digest it. Alright, to fulfill their natural nutritional requirements. Examples of insectivorous plants are Venus flytrap, pitcher plant, sundews. These plants possess modified leaves or traps that capture insects. Okay, so these plants have a very modified leaves, alright, very attractive modified leaves, so that they can capture the insects. The insect would come on that plant, sit on it, right, and the Venus flytrap will close its leaves. Alright, it will close it, it's like a trap, or maybe it will just capture the insect as soon as it lands on the plant. So, and it is also sticky, so that the insect is not able to escape. They release enzymes. Again, enzymes are biological chemicals that help a process to break down the insect's body and absorb the nutrients. Again, this is insectivorous. So what happens is, I'll show you. Wait. Okay, so over here we have Venus flytrap, and all these two are insectivorous plants. See over here, there is an insect inside, right? These are very attractive looking leaves. Let me show you. These leaves, you see this colorful leaves, you see this red color. These are very attractive to the insect, maybe a fly, maybe a honeybee or anything, and it will come over here. Okay, it will try to sit over here, okay, in a hope for honey, right, in hope for some food. What happens is, this will suddenly close. All right, this will suddenly close. This trap, you see the spikes and all, this will suddenly close, right, like a jaw, it will close, and this plant will release juices, enzymes that will digest that insect. All right, now again we have a symbiotic relationship. So in plants also we see symbiosis. Some plants have symbiotic relationships with other organisms to obtain nutrients. Again, plants also make symbiotic relationships with other organisms, not necessarily other plants, but other organisms. For instance, leguminous plants. All right, we studied about legumes. They have rhizobium bacteria in their legumes, so they have a symbiotic association with nitrogen fixing bacteria. So what happens is, supposedly there is a plant, right? It has some roots. These have legumes like these. Inside these legumes there is bacteria, that is rhizobium. Nitrogen from the outside is taken in through these legumes. All right, it is processed into absorbable form by this bacteria for the plant to take in, and rest of the nitrogen is again released. Okay, this is a symbiosis, nitrogen fixation, that we call nitrogen fixing bacteria called rhizobium. The bacteria converts atmospheric nitrogen into a form that plants can use, and in return the plants provide the bacteria with carbohydrates. So since this is being used, right, it will make food using nitrogen, it will help the process of photosynthesis, and the plant will give this bacteria carbohydrate, some food, some glucose, right, so that it can live as well. This is a symbiosis. Whenever both are benefiting, all right, whenever both are benefiting, that is symbiosis. Whenever only one is benefiting, that is heterotrophic. All right, so in heterotrophic it could be insectivorous, saprophytic. All right, so when we derive from the other, but we do not give any do not give the other organism anything, but in a symbiotic relationship both are benefiting. All right, it's a trade. I give you, you give me something. All right, either I give you protection, you give me food, or I give you food, you give me protection, all those things. Again, an example of a symbiosis. Consider ants, right? Consider ants over here. They are in a symbiosis. Ants will take in all the dry leaves, all the leftover wood. Okay, it will decompose it. It will take the leftover leaves and all those things. All right, so what will happen is, some trees, they serve as a home for these ants, and in turn ants keep the tree clean. All right, ants keep the ground clean, ants decompose organic matter so that the roots of the tree can absorb it. All right, it is also another symbiosis. So if you see, in a symbiosis everyone is dependent on each other. All right, and this is how they exist in nature. Now these are lichens. All right, this is both fungus and algae. Okay, algae is under this, fungus is over it. What is happening is, algae is making food for the fungus, fungus is giving it protection. Over here we see honeybees and flowers. They are also in a symbiosis. How? Pollination. We will study about it later. What happens in pollination is, there are seeds over this flower which will get attached to this honeybee, and the flower is giving him nectar, all right, to make honey. What happens is, this honeybee will go on so many flowers so that the seeds of one flower are transferred to another, and this way plants reproduce. All right, we will study about it in detail, but honeybees and flowers are also a symbiosis. Both are benefiting. Now we come to nutrition in animals. The first part is digestion in humans. All right, we are humans, we do not make our own food. We take food from outside. We eat animals, we eat vegan stuff as well. We eat fruits, we eat vegetables, we have milk, we have bread, we have a lot of things. How is it digest? How do we as humans break it into simple forms? All right, so that our body can digest it. Digestion in humans. So digestion in humans involves a series of processes that break down food into simpler molecules for absorption, right? It occurs in several organs. The digestive system is present in our body. All right, we have a system of organs that are working continuously to digest that food so that we are alive. Now it occurs in several organs. So the first one is mouth and buccal cavity. The mouth. Alright, the mouth and the buccal cavity. That cavity inside our mouth. Cavity means a space. Okay. So the digestion process begins in the mouth where food is chewed and mixed with saliva containing an enzyme called amylase that starts the breakdown of carbohydrates. So let me tell you about that in detail. See this diagram. See, this is the mouth, right? This is the mouth. Our mouth waters when we see food, right? That is a involuntary action, all right, through thousands of years, because whenever we eat food, more and more saliva is to be produced. What does saliva do? It does not only keep your mouth wet, but it also helps in digestion. It is the first point where digestion starts, in the mouth. Alright, so we chew the food, that is the first breaking down of food. Then we mix it with saliva. What saliva does is, if we don't have saliva, we won't be able to taste. If we don't have saliva, we won't be able to digest. Alright, saliva is what makes it moist so that we can taste it. Saliva is what helps it go down to other organs. Alright, so first the food enters, we break it down, we chew it, saliva gets mixed. Saliva has an enzyme, another biological chemical that our body produces through the salivary glands. Alright, salivary gland, see this over here, this is the salivary gland, okay, behind our mouth. Alright, behind our mouth there is the salivary gland, it produces saliva. Now this salivary gland, the saliva, contains amylase, AMYLASE, amylase. So this is the enzyme that is present in saliva. This is what makes it digestive, able to digest. Okay, so salivary glands, the amylase is present in the salivary gland, in the saliva, that saliva. Alright, we have this oral cavity, see the oral cavity, that is the mouth. Alright, this is the mouth. The saliva is released into the mouth whenever we see something, whenever we eat something, whenever we see food, your mouth waters, it is tasty, you know. How does that happen though? Alright, I'll tell you. Throughout ancient years, throughout the human civilization, our ancestors, they ate food, the body released saliva. So it is an involuntary action over these years. Your brain knows that it has to produce saliva when it sees food. Okay, so this is something that is involuntary. Involuntary means it is beyond control. Alright, and that is due to thousands of years of producing saliva. Alright, so that is an important thing. Now, let's move to the second part. This is the first breakdown of food. Now we come to the esophagus. This is not esophagus, this is esophagus. Alright, remember the spelling of esophagus. OESOPHAGUS. The esophagus, or the food pipe, transports the food from the mouth to the stomach through rhythmic contractions called peristalsis. Alright, now we study about the food pipe. See over here, the food pipe. What does this food pipe do? The food is mixed with saliva, it is broken down, chewed into simpler forms. It will go down this path to the stomach. This is the esophagus, this is the food pipe. It undergoes contractions. Alright, it is not like it will form, it will fall through gravity. No, this esophagus is moving like this. Alright, in this fashion, it is pushing food down. What happens when you vomit? In during vomiting, this esophagus is pulling it up. It is a reverse contraction. All right. So, but during digestion, it is going down. All right. This is contraction, and this contraction is called peristalsis. Peristalsis. All right. Remember the name peristalsis. Stomach. Now we all know this is an important part. We need the stomach so that where digestion occurs. Right. Now what happens is the stomach secretes gastric juices. All the enzymes that are released by the stomach is called gastric. Alright, anything related to digestion is gastric. Why gastric? Gastric means related to digestion, including enzymes and acid. So if I tell you, will you believe that this stomach has a lot of acid inside it? Our stomach has HCl, hydrochloric acid, present inside our stomach. What this does is, this will kill any bacteria or any harmful microorganism that enters through the food. All right. So what would happen in the stomach? It will give us digestive juices. Okay. It will give us more enzymes for digestion to occur, but it will also have acid which will dissolve the food, dissolve the enzymes, or sorry, the microorganisms that are present in that acid, in that food we consume, so that we do not catch food poisoning, we do not catch any diseases. So this is where we get protected. The and if you think about it, why are we not getting burnt? Alright, why is our stomach not getting burnt if there is such a strong acid present inside it? So this is U-shaped, right? It has an inner lining of mucus. Mucus is a substance that is very sticky in nature. It is very slimy in nature. It is mucus, and it is the layer between us and the acid. Okay, so if this mucus lining wasn't there, our stomach would be burning. All right, like actually burning. But this acid is inside this mucus lining, so we are safe, right? So the digestive enzymes and the hydrochloric acid is what makes digestion inside the stomach possible. Now stomach is like an organ that can expand. All right, it has an ability that can expand, so we eat only that much so that it does not expand a lot. The stomach is not a big organ, it is relatively flat and U-shaped, but if you keep filling it, it's like a balloon. It will increase in size. It can also decrease in size if you eat less and less, so it's like a contraction. Okay, we are done with this. Now we go for small intestine. The small intestine is the primary site of digestion and absorption. So after all these juices mixing and the enzymes mixing with the food that has broken down, now the particles need to be absorbed, right? Now the nutrition needs to occur. Now we need to get all the useful products from this digestion. How will we go about it, right? So in absorption, the small intestine is the primary site. Let me show you. See the small intestine, this red coiled up. Now intestines are coiled up. All right, it is coiled, it is not straight, it is not rounded, it is coiled, it is just like fitted inside the body. So this small intestine is where digestion occurs. It is the primary site. If they ask you what is the primary site, it is not stomach, it is the small intestine, because here is what absorption starts. Alright, inside the small intestine, supposedly this is a small intestine, right? It has villi. it has small structures present inside it, thread-like structures that are responsible for absorbing the nutrients as food passes through them. Okay, so small intestine plays a very crucial role in our body. Why? Because it is where absorption occurs from the food. It receives secretions from the liver and the pancreas to aid in digestion. So the liver, alright, and the pancreas both will aid in digestion. Okay, liver secretes the bile juice. And pancreas will also give enzymes to help in digestion. Nutrients are absorbed into the bloodstream. Now what happens is, after receiving secretions from the liver, from the pancreas, see the pancreatic duct, it is written, see the bile duct, that is written, these will go into the small intestine. What happens is, this will further break down the food and it will be absorbed by the villi that is present, into the blood. Alright, now these are surrounded by blood vessels which will take the nutrients all over the body wherever it is needed, right? Large intestine. Now we come to the large intestine. The large intestine absorbs water and electrolytes from undigested food, forming feces. Large intestine is also called the colon. This is where, after the food has been processed through the small intestine, it goes, and the large intestine, it will take water and electrolytes, all right, all the salts, the water from the food, making it very dark, a waste material. All right, at the end of the large intestine, it is made into a very dark and waste material which is then excreted out. All right, so this is where the final digestion occurs in the large intestine, and it is converted into waste material to be thrown out. Whatever cannot be absorbed will be thrown out. Right, now the anus. Anus is the exit point for undigested waste material. After going through a lot of absorption, after going through a lot of digestion, now the body wants to get rid of all the waste material. Not everything can be absorbed, right? Everything, after maximum absorption, it has to be thrown out. What will do that? That will be done by the anus. Okay, the anus. This will excrete the waste part. Okay, so that is the system of our body. Now, what are the sources of food components? Sources of food components. Different food components provide essential nutrients for the body's functioning. Examples of food components include carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins, minerals, and roughage. Okay, now we all know that there are various parts of the food. There are carbohydrates in nutrition, there are fats in nutrition, proteins, vitamins, minerals, roughage, and all that. What is the role of each? How it works? We will study about that in detail. First is carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are found in food like rice, bread, potatoes. Carbohydrates provide energy to the body. So carbohydrates are found in vegetables, rice, potatoes, bread. All these things gives us carbs. Carbs are the basic nutrient to provide energy to the body, to provide glucose to the body. Alright, this is what gets burnt first when we perform respiration. Fats. Fats are concentrated source of energy and are found in oils, butters, and nuts. So fats are found in oils, the butter that we eat, the nuts that we eat. They are more complex, that they will not be burnt directly, but they will take some time to burn, all right, to give us energy. All right, carbohydrates are burnt first by the body, but then fats. What are proteins? Proteins are helpful nutrients that make the building blocks for us, all right, like bricks for us. Foods like meat, eggs, and beans contain proteins which are essential for growth and repair of body tissues. For example, you have got hurt. For example, your muscles are sore. For example, your body needs to grow more. It needs protein, all right, which is derived from these sources, and this protein will help us grow, repair, develop. Vitamins. Vitamins are derived from fruits, vegetables, and dairy products. All right, vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C, vitamin D is from the sun, vitamin E is in almonds. All right, vitamin B12, vitamin K. These are required for bodily functions to occur. These are micronutrients. All right, these are required by our cells for healthy functioning. Okay.